The first point of education to review is non-basketball moves, and we will start with an offensive player launching or leaning into a defender at an abnormal angle or trajectory. The highlighted offensive player, Eric Gordon, shot fakes, and he then moves overtly and abruptly forward, and in doing so, he initiates more than marginal contact with the defensive player, Josh Okogie. Since this contact initiated by Gordon is clearly more than marginal, it is correctly ruled an offensive foul by the slot official. The next play in this section will show contact after a shot fake that results in a defensive foul. After the shot fake by the offensive player, P.J. Tucker, the defensive player, Jalen McDaniels, moves forward into Tucker right as Tucker starts his upward motion to shoot. We can see that Tucker did not make any abnormal or overt movement, and since the contact on this play is more than marginal, it is correctly ruled a defensive foul. The next type of non-basketball move to review is an offensive player abnormally extending part of his body into his opponent. The offensive player here, Jordan Clarkson, extends his right leg and he makes marginal contact with the defender, Nicholas Batum. Note that since this is only marginal contact that was initiated by Clarkson, this correctly results in a no call and a play-on situation. The next type of non-basketball move that we will review is a dribbler abruptly veering off his path and moving sideways or backwards into a defender. The highlighted dribbler, DeJounte Murray, abruptly moves to his right, initiating illegal contact with his legal defender, DeAnthony Melton. This contact by Murray is more than marginal, and it clearly affects Melton's ability to defend the play, and it was correctly ruled an offensive foul. On this next play, we will see the highlighted dribbler, Trey Mann, drive to the basket, and he then moves abruptly to his left, initiating illegal contact with his defender, Alize Johnson. This contact initiated by Mann is more than marginal, and an offensive foul call was needed on this play. The final type of non-basketball move to review is contact between an offensive player and his defender where the offensive player uses his off arm to initiate illegal contact. Here, the dribbler, Trae Young, uses his off arm to hook the arm of the defender, Bol Bol. This illegal contact, seen clearly on the replays, affects Bol's ability to continue defending the play. An offensive foul on Young was correctly called on this play by the lead official. This next play is another example of an offensive player using his off arm to initiate contact with his opponent. The dribbler, D'Angelo Russell, uses his off arm to hook the arm of the defender, John Conchar. However, since this contact initiated by Russell was only marginal contact and it did not affect Conchar's ability to defend the play, this play was correctly deemed to be a no call and a play-on situation. The next point of education to review is traveling. This first play will show an example of an offensive player committing a traveling violation on the perimeter. The offensive player, Zion Williamson, establishes his right foot as his pivot foot, but as he starts his move to the basket, he drags that right foot prior to releasing the ball on the dribble. A traveling violation was correctly called on this play. This next example is a traveling violation that occurs in the post area. The offensive player here, Paolo Banchero, ends his dribble and gathers the ball, and he then takes more than the allowed 2 steps before releasing the ball on the field goal attempt. The replay clearly shows Banchero taking multiple steps after he gathers. Once again, this is a traveling violation. Our final example in the traveling section shows another example of an offensive player taking too many steps after gathering the ball. The offensive player, Kyrie Irving, drives toward the basket and he takes 3 steps after he gathers the ball. The replay shows Irving gathering the ball on his left foot, and he then steps with his right, then his left, and finally with his right foot again for an illegal 3rd step. This is a traveling violation, and it needed to be called here. The next point of education to review is freedom of movement. The freedom of movement guidelines remain a key part of maintaining a free-flowing game. Here, the highlighted defender, Caleb Houston, places both hands on the dribbler, Karis LeVert, clearly affecting LeVert's rhythm and balance. On-ball defenders cannot affect their opponent's speed, quickness, balance, or rhythm. A defensive foul on Houston was correctly called here. Keep your eye on the highlighted defensive player, Matisse Thybulle, on this next play. As the offensive player, Jalen McDaniels, moves to set a screen, Thybulle extends his arms and he pushes McDaniels into the on-ball defender, Shake Milton. This type of contact by Thybulle is illegal, and the defensive foul was called correctly by the slot official. The final play in this section is an example of an offensive foul where a defensive player's freedom of movement is affected. The highlighted offensive player, Russell Westbrook, pushes off his legal defender, Bojan Bogdanovic, in an effort to create space. This contact, initiated by Westbrook, is more than marginal, and an offensive foul is correctly called by the lead official. As we know, the freedom of movement guidelines extend from the perimeter into the post area. Areas of enforcement include wraps, holds, and dislodges. The highlighted defensive player, Edmund Sumner, wraps his right arm around the waist of the offensive player, Onyeka Okongwu, as Okongwu looks to receive the entry pass. This illegal wrap by Sumner was correctly ruled as a defensive foul.